na lang sa kanya. Gusto naman kung prituhin mo kayo ako ang nililiwan.
Ay! Dahil mo tawag ng next. Thank you. Sis, diyan ka. Tumayo ko muna. Picturean ka pa rin.
This has to be one of the world's most spectacular views. Not me holding the map. Behind me, there's a hole in the ground. Somebody came here, probably a Scotsman, he dropped a penny and he started looking for it. And that's what happened. Okay, so there is the wonderful land of Israel. And right at the bottom, there it is. That's where we are. Follow the black dotted line to the place down here. We're in the middle of the Negev desert. We came from Beersheba today. Took us about an hour probably. And here we are in Mitzpe Ramon. Mitzpe is a lookout, and this crater, well, it's actually not a crater, is called the Ramon crater. In Hebrew, we call it a maktesh. And this is maktesh gadol, which is the big maktesh. There is a maktesh katan, the little maktesh. And basically, what is a maktesh? It's actually got three different names other than the Hebrew name maktesh. It is not a crater. You know, a long time ago, an asteroid did not come careering down and go boom. Even though, you know, it fooled a lot of people. The amazing thing about this is, once upon a time, and we're going back to the time of the flood, after the Lord had created the heavens and the earth, and the ground was lifted up, and the seas formed around the various continents and islands, this was covered. This was completely covered. And the rock that's on the top of it was hard. It was dolomite, it was limestone.
Wow.
And underneath was soft rock, stuff like sandstone. And the amazing thing about this is it's 40 kilometers from that end to the other end, which is very long. Width-wise, it goes from about 2 kilometers, where it's very narrow, to 10 kilometers across. But it actually has what we call a wadi, a riverbed, a nachal, going through it. Can you look down in this direction? You can see the little bushes.
Yeah.
In the winter time, and there's another one coming in from the side. In the winter time, the water comes down from the mountain areas, and it flows through here. So if you go back to the very beginning, there was always water moving underneath the rock that was on top. And because it was sandstone, it took a long time before it started collapsing.
Yeah.
And it all completely collapsed and got washed away into that part of the Negev desert. And then the roof that was on the top, just from sheer weight, collapsed. And in that collapse, this is what we have today. And then we have the wind and everything that comes, which blows and exposes and shows us other things. But this is amazing. So it's actually called a steep-sided canyon. You can see the steep sides over there. It's called a box canyon because it's boxed inside. And it's also called an erosion cirque. C-I-R-Q-E-U-E. When a volcano blows its top off, usually you get a little lake that's formed. I think that's the French call that a cirque. Yeah, and it fills up with water, and so they call this an erosion cirque, but it's erosion and the cirque has no water in it. And you see these areas of black?
Yeah.
This is volcanic rock. That, you know, in a long time ago, the earth, it came up, and we have little remains of volcanoes in areas like this.
Yeah.
But scattered throughout, we have the most incredible geology. We have, you know, the sandstone is not just white. It can be red, it can be green, it can be pink. It's beautiful. And there are areas in there where you can actually go for hikes and find these great big lines of sandstone that are there. But if we go in that direction, we're basically heading east. And in the time of Jesus, let's go back to then, the people who controlled this area and over in Jordan were not the Moabites, they were not the Ammonites, they were the Nabateans. And the Nabateans, you've heard of them, they were spice merchants. And they bought the very expensive and rich and spices from the east, probably as far as China. You know, well, China is silk.
Yeah.
You know, and you could in fact say that the way the Silk Route came and joined this, but the spices came from Yemen, Oman. I'm thinking of frankincense, myrrh. You know, these are where you got the rich spices in the older, and they were very expensive.
Yeah.
And the Nabateans, they devised, you know, that every 35 kilometers, we passed one on the way, they would build what they call a caravanserai. Which is a place where people can come and rest. And I wasn't joking when I said they can pick up a guide. Because let's not forget that these people on their camels, and they had, you know, 50 camels, some of these caravans, they were carrying very expensive stuff. And if robbers and whatever wanted to, they're sitting ducks, so they needed protection. So the Nabateans, who were a group of people from the Gulf area, they devised that they would build these places where people could come. They would actually set up loans and banking systems, but they would also offer them guides with guns. Did they have guns in those days? No.
No.
Okay, guns with slings. Okay, but yeah, swords. Whatever weapons they had to protect them. So this is part of the spice route, or sometimes it's called the incense route. And it would connect the east, you know, Arabia, India, even China, back to the land of Israel. And the main port was Jaffa and Gaza. And then from there it would branch out into the Mediterranean. So this was very important. Coming through Israel, we actually have a caravanserai in the Ramon crater. I'm being naughty, I'm calling it a crater, it's not a crater. Okay. In the Maktesh, we have one down there called Saharonim. Saharonim. And if we were to follow the road that snakes its way down, you'd actually get to it sort of 3/4 of the way across there. But this is stunning. There's no settlement, nothing over there. You're unlikely even to find Bedouin with camels over there. They like to be closer today to towns and things like that. But this is well worth sitting here and seeing. The other thing you see if you do go down there and walk around are wild asses, onagers, foxes, jackals, lots of snakes, lots of scorpions. Israel has 44 different varieties of snakes. And believe it or not, the most venomous is called the Palestinian viper.
Just name it.
It's a good name, isn't it? Yeah. Now, don't forget in scripture, we can tread on snakes and scorpions. But when you do, be careful. Might come up your leg. All the biblical snakes, even the one in the Garden of Eden, we find them here.
Really? What's the name?
The one in the Garden of Eden, he's the devil. But one that's, you know, you're always drawn to a tree, a lone tree or something in a place like this. You have to be very careful. Because under that tree you've got a saw-scaled viper, that gets rid of all the sand, and he's waiting for something to come. And he's not a very big snake, he's about that, and he's very fat, and he's got a diamond head, and he's really quite ugly. You need to be careful when you sit under a tree in the shade in the desert, because he might come up and get you. And at night, that's when snakes come out. They come out at night, so if you're a night walker, be really careful. And scorpions, they come out at night. We get a lot of black scorpions up where I live, but here you get a lot of yellow ones. And yellow ones are more poisonous. Do you like scorpions?
No.
No? Okay. Well, we tread on them, but there are people that eat snakes. They eat scorpions. They eat anything. Anything that moves. Look out! So I don't really think I've got anything else to say other than wow.
Wow.
Let's just say wow. It is a wow, isn't it?
Yes.